As the dust began to settle and the flames of Mount Doom faded, a scene of utter devastation unfolded before the bewildered eyes of the Orcs. With Sauron's defeat, their once unified ranks descended into chaos and disbelief. Amidst the smoldering ruins, the remains of both Orc and allied soldiers lay scattered across the battlefield, a grim testament to the horrors of war. Gazes of confusion met frantic shouts of agony, mingling with desperate arguments over shattered hierarchies. In the aftermath of the War of the Ring, the Orcs found themselves grappling with a sense of uncertainty. Their previous sense of purpose had evaporated, leaving behind a void that was filled only with confusion and disarray. As they gazed upon the destruction around them, the Orcs struggled to grasp the enormity of what had transpired. Some Orcs sought solace in their fellowship with other survivors, while others lashed out in frustration and despair. Through the air, whispers of rebellion began to spread, as some Orcs questioned the authority of their former leaders and sought to forge a new path forward. However, one thing remained certain: the Orcs would never be the same again. The defeat of Sauron had forever altered the course of their destiny, leaving them to grapple with the daunting task that lay ahead. The Orcs' history, begun in the ugly reign of Morgoth and rooted in the darkness and despair of Sauron's dominion. This led them to a moment of reckoning. With their Dark Lord defeated and the One Ring shattered, their malevolent dominion crumbled, leaving them severed from the poisonous grip of his spirit. Before their twisted gaze, the hierarchy they once obeyed dissolved into chaos. The once dominant power of Mordor, which commanded orc, troll, and beast alike, now faltered in the face of the West's resilience. Creatures bred for war and devastation roamed in confusion, their minds clouded and their purpose lost. This horrific scene was a grim testament to the end of an era and the uncertain dawn of a new age. As the captains of the West gazed across the southern lands, there seemed a huge black cloud crowned with lightning filling the sky. It swiftly stretched across the landscape, and like a mighty wind, blowing every living soul from their feet, leaving behind a profound and deafening silence. With the taste of victory beginning to tingle through the air, the captains observed their vanquished enemies, the once formidable forces now dispersing like chaff in the wind. As the sun dipped below the horizon on the battlefield of the War of Wrath, a conflict spanning decades, the surviving Orcs huddled in the shadows of the mountains. Once proud elves, now twisted and dark-hearted servants of Morgoth Boglir, they found themselves abandoned by their dreadful master as the Valar cast him out. Thangorodrim, their citadel, lay in ruins, torn asunder by the forces of the Valar, leaving the Orcs scattered and broken. With no other refuge, the Orcs fled eastward, seeking solace amidst the dark and desolate mountains. The land was harsh and unforgiving, but it offered sanctuary to the fallen creatures. Amidst the ruins and caverns, they erected new strongholds, hidden from the gaze of men and elves. As years went by, the Orcs multiplied and strengthened, harboring a profound hatred for the free peoples of Middle-earth, their hearts consumed by darkness. They ravaged villages, plundered towns, and instilled fear wherever their footsteps took them. With no limits to their cruelty, they relentlessly pursued the sinister purpose for which they were created. Though the origins of the Orcs remained veiled in mystery, their reign of terror endured through the ages. They served as a stark reminder of the enduring might of darkness and the dire consequences of forsaking the light. As they prowled the mountains with eyes brimming with malice, the people of Middle-earth were keenly aware that the shadow of Morgoth lingered, patiently waiting for the perfect moment to strike once more. 1,000 years of the Second Age passed before Morgoth's most trusted lieutenant, the Maya, known as Sauron, rose to power in the absence of his master. Seizing control of Mordor, he commanded the labor of Orcs, constructing the formidable fortress of Barad-dûr, an emblem of his dominion and ruthlessness. With the Orcs now his obedient army, Sauron wielded them as his instrument in numerous invasions and battles, including the infamous War of the Last Alliance. As the Orcs multiplied, roaming the mountains and valleys, the inhabitants of Middle-earth lived their lives in fear. The lingering shadow of evil remained, a sinister presence biding its time to strike once more. The orcs were not just creatures of flesh and blood, they embodied a tangible reminder of the ever-looming darkness that overshadowed Middle-earth. Step into the enchanting world of Tolkien, where heroes arise from unexpected corners and the eternal struggle of light against darkness unfolds. Don't miss out on the excitement. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell to stay tuned for the next thrilling adventures in Middle-earth. Though the black shroud of Sauron enveloped every corner of Middle-earth, it couldn't persist indefinitely. While the battle raged outside Mordor's Black Gate, the Dark Lord Sauron met his final defeat. The One Ring, the source of his power and corruption, imbued with his malice and hatred, met its end in the fiery depths of Mount Doom. His dominion over Middle-earth was finally shattered. With his downfall, the stronghold of Barad-dûr crumbled into ruins, its very foundation of evil shattered by the triumph of courage and valor. As the fires of Mordor raged, the Orcs, Sauron's dreaded and abhorrent minions, found themselves scattered and disoriented. With their master's power diminished and their formidable fortress reduced to rubble, the Orcs fled in chaos. Their ugly horde, fractured and leaderless, found no refuge in the shadows that once cloaked them in impenetrable darkness. Now, those shadows offered no sanctuary from the harsh light of defeat. In the glorious days following his crowning, King J.R.R. sat upon his throne in the Hall of the Kings, deliberating on the fate of Mordor, a land ravaged by war and shadow, stained with the blood and toil of countless slaves who had suffered under the rule of Sauron and his minions. Gathering his forces, King J.R.R. sent forth his troops to disband and eliminate the remaining orcs that still lurked in the shadows of Mordor. With grim determination, the armies of Gondor and Arnor hunted down the scattered remnants of Sauron's army, their swords flashing in the fading light of the setting sun. The orcs, once feared and dreaded, now cowered in the face of the king's wrath, their dark reign coming to a swift and final end. However, the king's justice was not one of vengeance alone. In a gesture of mercy and redemption, J.R.R. released the slaves of Mordor from their chains, granting them the lands around Lake Nirnen to be their own. The once oppressed and downtrodden people of Mordor now stood free, their hearts filled with a newfound hope for a Middle-earth without the evil eye that had kept an oppressive watch. And so, as the last echoes of war faded from the land, a new chapter began in the history of Middle-earth. The orcs were no more, their dark legacy swept away by the winds of change and the light of a new era. And in the hearts of the free peoples, there burned a flame of gratitude and loyalty towards the king who had delivered them from the darkness. Explore the rich world crafted by Tolkien, where heroes arise from unlikely places and the enduring beacon of hope triumphs over darkness. Journey with us as we dive into the depths of Tolkien's world, shedding light on its most fascinating elements. Grab your gear and join our quest. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in our next adventure.